in a game that has, oh, we're starting. We have 239 runners, and 31st is definitely not bad. Justun, I actually don't see Justin's name on the board. So I cannot tell you what Justun has. But we're definitely going to see a good run here, most likely, just because we have at least definitely one pretty good runner with us. The beginning of this run isn't too much happening, it's just some mashing. So for about the first minute, soon enough mashing isn't going to become too big a part of this run. Unlike some games of this genre, you might expect to be a big part of this run. And that is going to be because of a special item we're going to get around this point. So after this small cutscene here where we wake up with Toriel, we're going to go back into the bed. And this is the major New Game Plus component of the run, is that we can go right back to sleep and wake up in the first part of the Dark World. Yeah, I looked for Justin's name on the leaderboard and did not find a time. I looked for old usernames and I didn't find something. So maybe I'm just dumb. Alright. Well, we'll just see what happens. So, but yeah, waking up in that bed, you can go through the first part of the Dark World. These are the cliffs. And in the cliffs, if you reach the cliffs within 8 minutes of booting up the game, you get the Wrist Protector, which is an item that will insta-mash text by holding down the menu button. So, it's very useful because I don't remember the exact speed, but I want to say it goes through at about 15 text boxes per second, which is very hard to do with human hands consistently. Because you could probably do it for a little bit, but if you get your hands tired or in pain, it definitely becomes harder. So the Wrist Protector is super convenient to keep that pace up throughout the whole 30-minute run that we're going to have ahead of us. So now they're going to head into this section. The movement here has been pretty simple. You've just had to make sure you were moving at the right time to not hit walls, because that would kill your run speed. But here you actually have to dodge these things, because if you get hit, you'll have a little animation of you taking damage that will slow you down. Like you saw Dusty freeze for a little bit in place because they took damage. Now both of them are going to be heading down this, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a waterfall or a landslide or something. But in this part, it actually like does not matter if you get hit, I believe, so... They're just going to be moving on through. I believe Justun has a tiny lead right now. It's pretty close right now. But I think Justin's just having some smaller movement optimizations that Dusty is not making. Yeah, definitely a tiny bit ahead right now. But just like the smallest bit ahead. So here we have Lancer. Lancer kind of acts as a villain for most of this game. And we're going to use him as our first battle. So the battle system in this game, you're actually going to see quite a bit of attacking. You might notice that the way it works is this bar moves across this little slider. And if you hit it at a specific part of the slider, you do more damage. What Justun is on pace for right now is if you hit the very end of the slider 3 times in a row, you can get the Lancer fight finished in 3 turns instead of 4, which is the normal way to do it, and you're seeing both of them do here. HiPeRDustY saving a little bit of time by defending and letting Susie attack instead of having to watch the bar go down the slider, based on the amount of damage that he had done within the first 3 turns. But yeah, hitting that bar in the perfect position is known as a critical hit, and 3 critical hits lets you do that fight 1 turn faster. Both of them getting caught on the save star outside the castle a little bit, now with Ralze in the party. Dusty walking up to the dummy. I don't think that diagonal movement actually wastes any time, but kind of funny there. Yeah, this is a really close race still. So fighting is going to be, it depends really on the enemy that you get into an encounter with, whether it's going to be good. For a lot of the major encounters, though, it's usually pretty good to fight. And both of them getting this first skip here. So, Deltarune's main speed thing is that you cannot run from battles. So if you want to save time on a battle, you have to skip the overworld encounter entirely by doing the right set of movement to get around it instead of actually going into the enemy and just trying to defeat it quickly. Some of these skips are very hard, and they're all very scary, because if you bonk into a wall and lose your sprinting speed, it's just over there. Like, you're most likely going to hit it. Dusty taking a tiny lead, doing better on the switch puzzle, and now getting to the Haddies. The Haddies have a lot to them. You want to get them spareable turn 1, you want to run into the bullets. You see Justin's not running into the bullets, doing this little grinding against them thing, and the fight takes a lot longer than it did for Dusty. Dusty also took damage on the first attack to skip a Lancer text box and save about 2 seconds. So it's actually a pretty important part of the fields that can differentiate how much a runner knows about what they're doing. So it is giving Dusty the lead in this part of the game. And kind of a bigger lead than anything we've seen previously, actually. Although we have the fanfares now. The fanfares are slow. But you can't really skip them right now. We don't have a way to skip them, because we actually need Susie in order to do this tile puzzle right here, where we need to hit 3 buttons at once. Dusty's struggling a little bit with it, but gets it down. And just attacking this person here. Justin's game just crashed. Justin's game just crashed. This happens sometimes because it's not a very well-made game. Game maker is great, and the game crashed. I don't know if Dusty sees. Yeah, every race against HiPeRDustY, the opponent has game crashed. What is this? Mr. Link in chat was the person who beat HiPeRDustY in the last round, and they had to play a second game because Dusty, Link crashed against Dusty in the escape portion of the game, I believe. Dusty is a checkerboard now. Misses the Pawn Man skip, which is a really bad skip to miss. The Pawn Man, you have to do this screen very well in order to actually get the skip. Did the strat well, though. That's the way to do the strat. Dusty. Last time Dusty had their opponent crash, they were willing to let the rematch happen, and that is why Link did actually get a second match and win against Dusty. But this is kind of ridiculous. Okay, so Dusty is moving on to King Round. And you might notice that Dusty has been trying to make Susie take damage a lot throughout the run. And that is for this fight right here. So you cannot kill K Round no matter how hard you try. He can always heal for more damage than you can deal. But Susie right now is programmed to always attack this turn no matter what you do. And because of that, watching Susie attack K Round is really slow. So whenever you see that Susie is the target being attacked, you actually want Susie to die in this fight, so you don't have to watch her attacking people. Dusty still hasn't noticed that Justun quit. Or that Justin's game crashed. But Dusty's gonna be leaving checkerboard soon. Still on an alright run. Did hit a pawn man. But other than that, not bad. So in the forest now, Dusty is going to not clip through that. Okay, solving the puzzles. Move downward here to skip that enemy that's right there. Now gonna be doing this puzzle here. Having some problem hitting the button there. Got him messing up a little bit on that puzzle, and then we get to well, I mean, Justun, if you want a rematch, I'm pretty sure if Dusty sees what happens, you can let him know, and he might be down. That was interesting. Dusty, I think what happened to Dusty is that he forgot to, spare on turn 2 and accidentally defended with Ralze, so had to go through a second attack before sparing him. Dusty missing the Bloxer skip here, but very good at rearranging the Bloxer. So, no need to worry here. Gonna hopefully get the 2-turn in. Doing some damage boosts here just because it's faster than waiting for the cycles. But if you interact with the dancer ballerina thingies, it makes that sound. Dusty building a death machine. Alright, now going into the maze. So the maze, the thing about the maze is there's one encounter here in particular that's gonna come up soon, the Bloxer. With the Bloxer, what happens is, if you did not encounter any previous Bloxers, that Bloxer will be in full speed. And will do, and stop at no costs to, try and encounter you. However, if you've encountered a previous Bloxer, which Dusty did because he missed the skip, you won't have to set up that skip because that Bloxer will be slow enough to just run right past. So now into the fight against Susie and Lancer. Messing up the menuing a little bit there, but getting it down. You want to convince Lancer that you don't have to fight here. However, Susie won't let you, unless she's asleep. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get to a point where you can, where Susie sleeps for 3 turns once you lullaby. So you're gonna talk to Lancer twice and then make Susie fall asleep, and then just talk to Lancer 3 more times. Or no, it's 2 more times. But that's enough turns to end the fight. The reason you can do Susie sleeping a turn later than that, and the fight will still technically work. However, if you do the 2-1-2 strategy instead of the normal 3-1-1 strategy, then actually the fight will take a little bit longer because the turn 3 combo attack is longer than Lancer's turn 3 solo attack, and you just kind of don't want to take longer. So now at this point in the game, we're done with a lot of stuff for a little bit. We have a lot of cutscene. This is a very big part of the game in terms of character development. So we're going to have a lot of character development that you might not understand unless you can read Japanese at these entire Japanese text boxes within like a frame. I don't know who can do that here, but if you can, you might understand what's going on in the text. I guess we can talk about the story a little bit. So right now we're kind of like we're finally reunited with Susie and Lancer as heroes, and we're kind of learning more about the relationship that formed between Susie and Lancer while we weren't with them, or while they weren't with us rather. And Lancer kind of starts having an internal conflict between choosing between, you know, his people and his dad, the people he's loyal to, as well as the people that, you know, he finally has made friends with. So... Now, in the prison cell here, in the prison cell, you need to talk to 3 things. This is usually the game's, like, motivator to, like, get you to interact with everything. The crack in the wall, the shackle on the wall, and the moss on the floor that the game actually wants you to eat. However, you just have to talk to 3 things. So, it's technically fastest to talk to the crack 3 times. However, the shackle is a collectible item that can up your attack for the end of the game. So you want to talk to the cracked wall twice and then take the shackle instead. And although it wastes a little bit of time in the prison cell, it'll save time on late game fights. Speaking of fights, we have a fight that's essentially a cutscene. Susie's battle trigger still tells her that she's in a state of the game where she'll only attack things. Kind of like what we saw with the Jigsaw or the K round earlier. And because of her being your only party member at this point in the game, you can't really do anything in this battle, so it's essentially a cutscene. You can speed it up a little bit here, though, by trying to get max tension points by going up against enemy bullets. You might remember I said during the Happy fight that it was faster to do something like that. If you can get your TP bar to the max, it saves a very small amount of time on this fight. And I think HiPeRDustY is at a point where they will get a TP max bar. So, or a max TP bar rather. So that's a small amount of time save. I apparently don't know anything about TP counts, so don't listen to me. By the way, I've never explained TP because it was never very useful before now. TP is not only a thing that makes battles go faster sometimes, but it's also magic. We only use magic in one battle in the game because Ralse's magic is not very good, and as I mentioned with Susie's battle state, we can't use her magic until very late into the game. But they are very powerful attacks that we'll get to use on the final boss, which is cool, I guess. Alright, so in the castle, there are 2 encounters you need to watch out for. The first one here is the Root and Ranger, which HiPeRDustY takes the safer reload screen setup in order to skip. It wastes about a second over the other harder setup, but it is, again, much safer. It's pretty easy, which I feel like I'm not allowed to say after yesterday, where I kind of was hasty on that skip and messed it up, but it's usually pretty easy. And then you get your first encounter with Rules Huck Hard, and then you get one of the hardest skips in the whole game. So this is Head Hathy skip. Head Hathy. Oh, he got it! Head Hathy is a very difficult skip. You have to be very, very precise. I mean, everything about it needs to add up. You need to be in the right position when the Head Hathy's at the right position, and then you need to do your run near perfectly in order to just merely by frames escape getting into the battle. And Dusty just absolutely nailed it. That is one of the best time saves in the run, because I believe Dusty does not do the strat of equipping the Iron Shackle on Susie. So you see, we buy the Brave Axe from the shop, and then we equip the Brave Axe and the Shackle. If you miss that skip and don't equip the Shackle before Head Hathy, you have a much higher chance of having to do that fight in 3 turns instead of just 2. If you land 2 critical hits without the Shackle, you'll still 2-turn the fight, but it's convoluted, trust me. So now we're gonna have HiPeRDustY on the second fight against King Round, missing the crown. So your goal here is to throw Ralze at King Round. More specifically, you want to hit the crown, because that if you get a direct hit on the crown, it will do a much higher percentage of looseness of the crown. However, the hitbox aren't great, so sometimes you'll see what happened to Dusty, where you just kind of miss the you miss the crown. It's a weird hitbox, but it happens. So now, the final boss in this game is the King. So when it comes to the King, there are 2 strategies you can deploy here. There's the Rude Buster strategy and the Red Buster strategy. The Red Buster strategy is the more modern one. However, HiPeRDustY is actually using the Rude Buster strategy. So with the Rude Buster, it's a very powerful magic attack that Susie has that deals, or that uses 50% of TP. It uses less TP than the Red Buster and doesn't require a combination of Chris and Susie to use, but overall it does less damage. Due to the less restrictive TP numbers that you need to do the Rude Buster strategy, the best version of the fight you can do with this strategy is a 9-turn fight. However, that is very hard. If I recall correctly, the number of critical hits you can miss on your attacks in order to get a 9-turn Rude Buster fight is 2. And that is very hard to do. So usually you'll see a 10-turn with this strategy. The other strategy you'll also see 10-turn with when done optimally instead of 9-turn. However, it's still faster because that strategy has less attack animations, it has more defense, and more kind of double attacks where you don't see Chris attack at all. Speaking of Chris attacking, Chris is on the verge of dying right now, which is very bad in this game, because the only healing thing you get in the entirety of this run is Ralze's Heal Prayer spell, which can heal a single teammate for not a lot, and you can't use it when Ralze himself dies. However, when a party member is dead, they'll usually revive slowly within a few turns. So, and HiPeRDustY, with Susie's current HP, I think should be good to finish up the fight within 11 here. This is the attack that you see on turn 10. Usually you don't see this one. Like, usually that attack, before that attack is the latest you want to see the king die. But the king is done after 11 turns. That was still a alright fight from Dusty, despite the death and the 11 turn. Could have been worse. I have had seen races where we saw a forfeit because someone could not beat king after a few tries. It is a very hard fight. The attacks it throws out aren't random. It's actually a pattern on which attack happens when. So, yeah. And, well, we have more cutscene here. Some kind of post-game cutscene involving the king and the Delta Warriors. I'll answer a question in chat. Yes, I did play Deltarune. In fact, my race is going to be in a bit over 3 hours from now, at 6 p.m. Eastern. My losers bracket round 2 or 3. One of those, my race with BBC. I think this game is a lot of fun. I think it's a great run. If you want to get into the run, definitely check out the Discord. There's a lot of people there that'll be willing to help you, as well as guides on the speedrun.com page made by Rambu. I think is the one that a lot of people learn off of. Rambu made a very good guide and is also a very good runner of this game. Yeah, I think this game is just a lot of fun. It can get frustrating to run, but it is very well made. All the characters are great. There's just a lot of good in this game, is my answer to that's what I think of this game. But at the end of this cutscene here, bonking on that corner. Now has to go plug the dark fountain to rebalance the light and dark in the world. And then we'll be on our way home. So I guess we can talk about the ending of this race here. So since unfortunately Justun is not going to be finishing and is going to let Dusty take the victory on this race after the crash, Dusty is going to be moving on to round 2 of the losers bracket, where Dusty will be facing the winner of Raider Q8 and Anti-Ant Films. Meanwhile, there are more races today. There's a lot of Deltarune races coming up on the channel. If you stay tuned, right after this race, we're going to have a race between Bluezer and Yoshi Killer 1092 with Ten Dog on commentary. Ten Dog being the opponent that won against me yesterday, actually. So the one that knocked me into the losers bracket. But with HiPeRDustY heading home now, I'm going to talk tutorial. Run onto the bed, and HiPeRDustY, not Yoshi Killer. We'll see if Yoshi Killer is the winner of the next race, but the winner of this race with 2857 is HiPeRDustY. So GG, congratulations. Gonna be moving on to round 2 of the losers bracket. Definitely, I'd recommend following these two runners. Did a great race today. Yeah, no, this was just a really good race to watch. And, GG's all around. Next race, again, going to be Bluezer and Yoshi Killer, staying on this channel in just over 5 minutes. And Nog's gonna be joining us. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm not gonna delay too much longer. We don't really have time for interviews because we need to set up for this next race. But, thanks everybody for coming out. And we'll see you in just about 5 minutes or so.